Welcome, everybody, to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. Welcome, everybody, to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. I am your host, John Espinosa. I appreciate you all giving me your time today and listening into the podcast. If you like what you're hearing, click on that subscribe button. It really helps get this message out to as many people as we possibly can. Share it with your friends and family. I always share podcasts that I enjoy listening to. I text it to my kids. We have a group chat, family group chat, that I'm always sending them inspirational quotes or podcasts that I listen to that I think will help them. So I'd appreciate if you do the same. It helps meet our mission of getting others to where they're going. Today, the topic of the podcast is going to be on opportunities. In my career, in my professional and personal career, I've had two different type of opportunities. Those that I've went and seeked out, and then the opportunities that have been given to me. The ones that I tend to seek out are opportunities that I have a pretty good confidence rate that I can go achieve, that I can go get the job done. And those are the opportunities that through life are good. They're great opportunities, whether it's a job opportunity or it's an opportunity that in some form, I'm not saying that those opportunities don't challenge us, but a lot of times we like to stay comfortable as human beings. We like to do things that we know how to do. We like to talk about things that we know things about, that we've had experience in. Today I want to talk about the opportunities that are uncomfortable, that make you uncomfortable, the ones that are given to us, or somebody knocks on your door or gives you a Teams call or phone call and they're like, "Hey, John, I have this opportunity." Anytime they start out with that, I sit down, I make sure that I'm in a seat because I know, especially with my network, I know that it's going to be challenging. Those are the ones that I want to talk about today. The ones that you're not 100% comfortable with. Those opportunities that even now, I'm going to talk about a couple of them, they give me goosebumps just thinking about them because when I said yes, I had no clue either what I was getting myself into or really what the subject matter or the expertise that was going to be needed to dive into these things. I've always told myself something. I always challenge myself to explore the unknown. I want to talk today about those opportunities that make you uncomfortable. I mentioned that I was a strategic planner for an organization, and it was a detailed opportunity. It was an opportunity at that time that my senior leader in the organization I'd done presentations before. I had done work for them before. I was a facilitator for a lot of different meetings. I got into facilitation very early in my career. I took classes on facilitation. I taught classes on facilitation, and I facilitated large groups, meetings of 100, 150, all the way down to room sizes of 5 to 10. I was comfortable enough facilitating meetings, being in front of people, talking to people. I was an instructor for many, many years, and I got that opportunity to stand up in front of large class sizes and small class sizes. She saw that, my ability to communicate, and there was a spot opening up for the strategic planning side of the house, and she asked me if I'd be interested. Whenever somebody asks you to do something and your stomach starts gurgling and knotting up, where I didn't want to let her down. I had a lot of respect for her as a senior leader in our organization. She had to have seen something in me during, all the meetings and in my interactions with her. So what did I do? I said yes. I jumped in with 2 feet, and it was tied to a strategic initiative at that time to develop a 4-year strategic plan. And this was like within the year. I think I onboarded early part of the year, and the target date was June, July timeframe. So I had a short amount of time to ramp up, and I had a lot of homework to do. So what did I do? The very first thing, anytime that you're experiencing something unknown, you try to relate it back to the known. And that is my first point. Be a constant student. Be a student of the game. If you look at a lot of the high-performing leaders, high-performing athletes out there, they remain students of the game. They're constantly, studying what others are doing. They're, relying on their past experiences, whether that is in critical moments, in challenging times, communication. What I did was I relied on my facilitation ability and my agenda creation. I was fantastic. People would come to me sometimes, not even to facilitate the meetings, but to facilitate agenda development. So that's where I started. I knew how to create agendas. I knew that I could create an agenda that was interactive enough to where, and it built upon the basic principles of strategic planning. I always run people through a SWOT analysis that identifies the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats within the organization. So I started there. I had done that before. I had facilitated a meeting where they ran through that. I was familiar with that. I started there. And then our mission and vision and values, that's always a big piece. I studied those as well. And I weave that into the culture, because you'll always hear culture will eat strategy for breakfast. And those are the things that I started on. This whole strategic planning, it was a group of probably 20 of us. These were senior leaders in the organization, and it was going to be a 4-year vision of where we were going. Now, there was a bigger strategic plan within our organization, but this one was particularly geared toward our organization. So that's where I started. If I hadn't been a student of the SWOT analysis, if I hadn't been a student of the facilitation piece, I studied that. I'd watch videos, I'd study different concepts on how to facilitate. I went to courses I mentioned, and then I'd weave that in. I taught courses. So we would always meet with people before we'd go in and teach and identify their needs, a needs assessment. What are you looking for? What are your goals and outcomes of the individuals? What do you want them to walk away with? What skills, what knowledge do you want them to walk away with at the end of the training session? I knew that. So I applied that to the strategic planning meeting, and it helped me out tremendously. Half the battle is just creating the agenda in a lot of your strategic planning sessions. So that's where I found success. I found success being a student of the game. And then once I got my foot in the door, and trust me, that meeting, it wasn't perfect. We had some ups and downs. I pulled on some concepts, some leadership methodology and some leadership concepts that I had from previous meetings, but we got through it. We got through it as a leadership team. I had that behind me, so now that was an experience. We had a 2-day event. There was some aha moments. I always love when you look around the room and people just start engaging and they start talking and they start feeding off of each other and idea sharing. You know you're doing something right when you've gotten to that point. But you do go through the group dynamics of storming, norming, forming, and then performing. I knew all those concepts and I brought those into the organization or to that meeting with me. So the first element is to be a student of the game. Anything that you do, any skill that you're doing now, be a student of that game, because you never know when those skills can cross any other knowledge or skill that you're going to need in the future. Communication is the foundation for everything. Learn how to communicate is just an example of a skill that crosses multiple subject areas. The second one that I want to talk about is being curious. So again, these are opportunities that we're talking today that make us uncomfortable. So what do you do when you're uncomfortable? You can either work your way through it, you can run away from it, or you can freeze. For me, I'm suggesting be curious. Lean into it. Lean into that uncomfortableness. I know that it's the exact opposite of where our mind wants to go, but tell yourself, instead of I'm nervous or I'm anxious or you start getting that self-doubt. We're talking about mindfulness for this season, and this is all about being curious, is all about being mindful about the topic itself and really how you are engaging with that topic or that subject matter. Be curious about it. What do you know? Write that down. This goes back to being student of the game. I like lists. I'm a read, write learner. I love to write things down. It helps me visualize things too. So write down what you know about that particular topic and then start getting curious. What do you not know? What do you want to know more about? What do you want to learn? Get some feedback from individuals. I love talking to people about different things and just getting their ideas. I'm a huge idea generator especially when there's topics that I'm not familiar with. But what does that help us do? If we're curious about something, it goes back almost, I can remember when my kids were younger, or my grandchild, she's not gotten there yet, but I promise you, their favorite question when they're about 2-3 years old, help me out here. Why? What for? Why do you think that they ask that? Because they're naturally curious. They don't have biases. They haven't experienced things in their life to where they're not curious. Our lives take away that curiosity because we either have good experiences or we have bad experiences with things. And guess what? We stop being curious because all we want to do is what we know, comfortable with. So we're talking about being uncomfortable. So be curious. Be curious in that unknown topic. Write down what you know about it and then identify those things that you don't know about it. And the things that you don't know, where's the gap? So known to unknown, where's your gap? That's where you want to work. That's the space that you want to work in when things make you uncomfortable, is what you know versus what you unknow. How can you bridge that gap? from known to unknown. It's a basic educational philosophy. That's what we do. If you look at curriculums, how they're built, how they're designed, they build off of what we know to what we don't know, or what we're trying to learn, what the teacher's trying to teach us, or what we're trying to teach ourselves. So number 2 is be curious. Number 3, and this is going to be the hardest one out of all of them, you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Put yourself in those uncomfortable situations. There were situations prior to me being a strategic planner, being asked to take on that role, that made me uncomfortable. Because of that, because of those opportunities, when I was asked to be in the strategic planner role, I said yes. I said yes because I respected the person that asked me. And then 2, I knew that it would propel me, it would challenge me, it would give me another skill set that would make me marketable and build my brand. It made me more prepared to be a leader because I took on those individual challenges, those individual opportunities. Don't run away from those opportunities. I promise you that it's going to be uncomfortable at first, but as you start digging into it, as you start becoming students of the game, as you start being curious, guess what? You begin to get more comfortable. It's funny how that works. It's funny how when we're faced with an unknown situation, an uncomfortable situation, the more we're in it, the more we know about it. Child raising. I was young. I was a 20-year-old kid whenever I had 2 human beings that I had to take care of. I did not know anything about being a father, much less being a husband. I was newly married at the time. I was uncomfortable, but how did I address that? I leaned on my parents. I leaned on my upbringing, right? I'm still not 100% comfortable, but I've raised 2 older children. They are successful. They're out doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I got one in the house. I'm still learning every single day, relating back to those experiences. Each kid is individual and each situation is going to be individual. What I want to just convey to you as we wrap up is challenge yourself as leaders. That mindfulness of being curious, being a student of the game. Be mindful whenever you are going through something, write down or take a mental just capture of the situation, how you interacted the situation, best practices, and the result of the situation. And then that will carry you forward into whatever next opportunity that will be presented to you that may be uncomfortable. But if you follow those 3 steps, be a student of the game, be curious, and that will make you become comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's going to take you into those opportunities, and you're going to see exponential growth out of those opportunities that you probably would have said no to, or you wouldn't have done if you wouldn't have set yourself up for success and followed those 3 steps. I hope this helps somebody today. Go be great. We'll talk to everyone later. Bye-bye. If you enjoy what you're hearing, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps us get others to where they're going.